as I had been working in banking sector for so many years, and now I get opportunity to refresh my knowledge about the international banking practices.
PMBF degree is being as an international recognized degree. Participants can have more good opportunities from different faculties with very much comprehensive international curriculum. Some faculties have deeply academic background and some are practitioners. We can mix up together and then also we can apply in our daily work.
Yeah, the program of PMBF is customized for what we need to do in our personal career or in our professional activities.
I get to learn here in a very good learning environment with all the resources, with my international colleagues from different countries and faculty who have a very good knowledge on the banking.
Professional masters help me to mix with people of different cultures, religions, and thinking patterns, which enriched my understanding and broadened my outlook and my experience.
Oh wow! It was like just wow. I'm just one of the special ones to be the AITian, and it really feels amazing.
I'm learning so many new things that I know I will grow as a person as a whole.
We had to go through a competitive examination and a selection process.
The instructor and professor are very good and expert at that. I didn't have any financial or accounting background or basic, but I feel that I can learn it very easily.
I got the opportunity to meet the top most experienced professionals from various countries as my instructors.
I'm very confident that what I learned here, I can use them in Nepalese banking industry.
Before I joined the PMBF program, my working experience is only in the central banking, not in the commercial banking. But after completion the PMBF program, I have more confidence, more knowledge about the commercial banking to be as a professional in my career.
In this year, 2020, I have been nominated for the Japan IMF Scholarship for Asia Pacific, which is well known as DIPA Scholarship. And currently, I am pursuing Masters in Public Economic Policy in Hitotsubashi University of Japan. The experience I gathered in PMBF program has enabled me to crack this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Tanji. It's now my pleasure and honor to introduce Mr. Selim Hussain. He's a distinguished banker with over 3 decades of experience in banking. He has served in different locations, including India and Australia, and with many multinational banks before taking over as CEO of BRAC Bank in 2015. Today, he will talk about the particular strength of BRAC Bank, if you like, the cottage, micro, small and medium enterprise business. This forms a big chunk of BRAC Bank's assets. And when we were discussing with what could be potential topics, this came up as a very obvious candidate. BRAC, of course, is well known for its many activities in the non-governmental organization sector. But the bank is a part of the overall BRAC group and continues to help improve the lives and livelihood of the poorer people in the country. So before we start with Mr. Hussain's talk, we will have a brief welcome by Dr. Nabil, the Vice President of Knowledge Transfer here at AIT, who will tell us about AIT and its initiatives in recent times.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Venkatesh. And once again, a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Selim Hussain. And really, we greatly appreciate your time. We can imagine how busy yourself and all the other CEOs who have been, very kind enough to speak on this forum. And when I look at this screen, it's amazing to see how many top banking sector CEOs are joining us today. And they have been speaking on this forum as well. So actually, we have been so inspired by this initiative by Dr. Venkatesh and seeing so many interests from the banking sector and the enterprises that AIT is now launching their formal AIT Enterprises Alliance on the 11th of November. So this will actually provide another platform for our partners to work together to share knowledge, and also for AIT to provide more dedicated sort of support to the enterprises that we work with, in addition to offering programs like this. So we will be sending you a separate invitation to all of you who are joining, all of the CEOs of the banks and the speakers, to kindly grace us on the 11th of November to join this launch of our AIT Enterprises Alliance. And this is another step forward in this direction, where we believe that the universities like AIT and the enterprises, the banking sector, and other organizations can work together for upbringing both the human resources as well as the society in general. So we are really extremely glad for your kind contribution and support, and we are very encouraged by this impact. And we hope that this will not only continue, but expand to another level. And we hope, we are looking at the models followed by MIT and other universities, where the enterprises work with the universities and everybody benefits from such collaboration. So AIT is taking a lead in this direction, and we hope that this initiative like this and others will bring us even closer and to collaborate for bigger goals. So thank you once again, Mr. Selim Hussain, and also other colleagues joining in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nabil. I now hand over the floor to Mr. Selim Hussain for his talk today, which is sustainable strategies for growth in the cottage, micro, small, and medium enterprise. Mr. Hussain, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this honor. I understand I have roughly 45 to 50 minutes to give you a sense of what BRAC Bank is all about, and one of our key client verticals, which is the cottage, micro, small industry. This segment is very important to the bank. I hope you will pardon me if I make some glitches in putting all this together, because I'm working out of home. I have been doing so for the last 5 months plus. So let me try to share a presentation on the screen itself. Just give me a few seconds. There, good. Everything is okay till date. Just a second, and there you go. So what I'll try to do, can all of you see this presentation?
Yes, Mr. Hussain, it's very clear.
Oh, great, great. What I'll try to do is give you a quick sense of what BRAC Bank is all about, and then take you into the SME client segment specifically. So BRAC is what, 19 years old now. As a bank, it began in 2001. The bank was listed, is currently listed on the Dhaka and Chittagong stock exchanges, has been for many years now. The authorized capital of the bank is, forgive me, the figures are slightly wrong, about $230 million and $150 million of paid up capital. Very importantly, the bank was set up by BRAC, which is the largest NGO or development organization in the world, in 2001. Our founder chairman was Sir Fazle Hassan Abed, a gentleman who actually founded BRAC itself in 1971 after the War of Independence in Bangladesh. And the concept of SMEs, well, you must think back to 2 decades ago, in Bangladesh was relatively unknown. This is at a point in time in the late 90s, early 2000s, when banking in Bangladesh was entirely concentrated heavily on corporate commercial client segments. And a few banks, a few foreign banks had started what we call the retail or consumer finance segment in the mid-90s. SME was completely unknown. The SME clients were generally serviced by microfinance institutions, cooperative institutions, but were never made welcome to banks. Banks felt they were dirty, they were poor, they did not smell very good, they did not come out of nice vehicles, and in terms of risk, they were considered extremely dangerous. So banks in Bangladesh had never really welcomed SME customers. In fact, the concept of SME itself was pretty unknown. This is going back 2000, 2001. That's when Sir Abed decided that we must build a bank which will cater to and focus on the SME clientele, what today we call the cottage, micro, small and medium enterprises, or CMSMEs. That's the larger terminology used nowadays. And so he began BRAC Bank back in 2001. The missing middle are those, is that client segment which stood between micro.
Sorry, Mr. Hussain, can the slides be moved a little bit, please? I think you are on the 3rd slide.
I'm sorry, I'm actually on the 2nd slide.
The missing middle?
Yes, yeah. We're on the missing middle. Is that okay? Can you see
No,
that?
we are seeing only the 1st slide here.
I'm sorry, just hang on a second.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you very much.
I moved to the 3rd slide. Can you see this slide on the missing middle?
Yeah, we are seeing it on the side, but it's not in the center.
Okay, just hang on a second.
Mr. Hussain, can you just click on what is written enable editing so that it will then open up?
Okay, my apologies. What I will try to do, I was scared that this would happen.
So on top there is enable editing, you know.
Okay, just hang on a second. This is my worst nightmare. I'm sorry. Can you see me now? Can you see all of the screen now?
It's the same as it was earlier on.
Oh, goodness. May I request Dr. Phuong then to actually show this screen? Is that possible, Dr. Phuong?
Yeah, we can arrange that.
Yes, my apologies. I am unable to find the option that you suggested. And as I'm working from home, I do not really have anybody to help me here from our office.
Can you just try to click on the 3rd slide that you're talking on right now? You know, if you see it on your screen, just move the mouse over and click on it. I think then the big slide will also change. Is that possible?
Good afternoon, Mr. Hussain.
Right.
This is Farah. So right. I can help you. Would you please, okay, you stop sharing your screen. So let me see.
If you could share on my behalf.
Yeah, sure, I can do that.
That will be so kind of you. Thank you. My apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. There.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
No, it's fine.
Okay, okay, okay. Can we move to the next slide, please, Farah?
Sure.
So, right, the next slide. So the previous slide, please. So I was talking about what why BRAC Bank began SME. And the concept behind it is very important. I want to spend a few minutes talking about this because why is BRAC Bank interested in SMEs? When I joined BRAC Bank in 2015, very early on, end 2015, I visited my chairman and asked him. I asked him about what BRAC Bank was. What is BRAC Bank, sir? Are we a development organization? Are we a commercial bank? Are we a development bank? Are we an NGO? Please tell me what we are. And in 5 minutes, he explained everything. He was an extraordinary gentleman. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. And he said to me, Selim, our objective when we opened this bank many years ago, almost 2 decades ago in 2001, was to really further the financial inclusion agenda of BRAC itself. Now, for 40 years, BRAC had run very successfully a very large microfinance institution. You may have heard of it, BRAC MFI. You may have heard of the Grameen MFI. And BRAC MFI is very similar. There are many hundreds of such microfinance institutions in Bangladesh which are focused at providing microcredit to poor, ultra poor, lower income groups, but not to businesses. So he said to me that we feel that the best way now for our country to further the financial inclusion agenda is to open up a bank which will focus on SMEs. That is the best way to add value to our clients. That does not mean that we will not do corporate or commercial business, or we will not do retail or consumer finance business. Yes, we will do all that, but our focus will be on the SME clientele, because that is the way we feel that employment can best be enhanced in our country. That is the way we feel that value can be added to our society and our economy. And that is the reason why we are focused on SME. And we know the concept of SMEs back in 2001 is very new. We know we'll probably lose a lot of money before we become very good at it, but we're willing to go to that effort. We're willing to take on board that pain. And that itself, I say to all of you today, is very important. The concept is important because right from the start, BRAC Bank had the risk appetite, had the focus, had the concept of, and the clients of this client segment has been part of our DNA right from the start. And this is very, very important for all of us to understand, because without that ownership of this client segment, if one believes that one is only going to get into SME to make a lot of money, to do good business, then perhaps you might not be doing as good a job as you would want to. I think that is very, very important itself. Can we move to the next slide, Farah? And we'll talk a little bit about what BRAC Bank is about. It's in size, it's about one of the top 10 banks in the country in terms of balance sheet, approximately 2.5% of the market, approximately 1.5 million clients, a balance sheet, customer lending of about 3.5–4 billion US dollars, customer assets of about $5 billion US dollars. Next slide, please. We've always wanted to be the best bank in the country. It is also a bank with a very strong values, a governance standard that is the talk of the town and is well recognized within the country itself. So what are the 4 pillars of BRAC Bank's values? Essentially governance, compliance, transparency, and this third foundation, which many people may find strange, ethics. It is a bank that is heavily focused on doing the right thing on wanting to do the right thing for our society, our economy, and our people. To give you a sense of what that means, there are many businesses which are very attractive, commercially lucrative in Bangladesh, which BRAC Bank does not get into. We stay away from it. Tobacco, either tobacco in terms of agriculture itself, or tobacco in terms of the manufacturing of cigarettes or cigars. That is an extremely commercially lucrative business in Bangladesh, but BRAC Bank stays away from it because we feel this is a business which negatively impacts our people. There's another business called shipbreaking, where in the port city of Chittagong in Bangladesh, old ships, 50-year, 100-year-old ships are brought from all over the world, beached and then cut apart by hand. There is a lot of environmental degradation and a lot of people lose their lives or their limbs. However, it is for the sponsors and the banks, extremely attractive business, very profitable business. But because it is a business that does not meet our concept of what is good for our environment and our people, it is something we do not do. These four values are basically at the core of our day-to-day operations. So everything we do has to pass what we call these four tests. Next slide, please, Farah. Essentially, I mentioned this a short while earlier, BRAC Bank is also a founder member of the Global Alliance for Banking on Values. This is an international forum of about 65 banks and financial institutions, which are focused very much on the people, planet, and prosperity for all concept, as opposed to profits only. Therefore, thinking about people before profits. Next slide. I won't spend time on this. Let's move to the next slide. Again, not necessary. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. Just to give you a sense, we have a few subsidiaries. bKash is one of the world's largest mobile financial services with over 4.5-5 crore customers. BRAC EPL Investments and BRAC Stock Brokerages are a stock brokerage and an investment banking capability in our stock market. BRAC Sarjan is a UK-based remittance house which enables Bangladeshi diaspora to remit home to Bangladesh their foreign currency earnings. Next slide, Farah. Again, today, sorry, the previous slide, 40% plus of BRAC Bank is owned by European and North American and a few Asian overseas investors. BRAC itself is the main sponsor with 44% shareholding, and the Bangladeshi public has, this is retail shareholding is about 7% and Bangladeshi institutional shareholding about 9%. Next slide, thank you. To give you a sense of BRAC Bank, roughly 10,000 employees, as I said, 1.4, 1.5 million customers, 187 today, actually about 190 odd branches, 450 SME unit offices. We are spread out across the whole country with quite a strong network. In terms of network, I think we have the 6th or 7th largest network in terms of branches in the country. Next slide, please. The best credit rating in the country. Thank you. Next slide. So essentially what I wanted to do over the last 15-20 minutes is give you a sense of what BRAC Bank is all about. We are proud to be leading the charge of the SMEs or cottage, micro, small CMSMEs in Bangladesh. We are proud of being part of BRAC, our parent organization. We are proud of being a standard bearer for corporate governance and values in the Bangladesh banking industry. The cottage micro small business is roughly 47% of BRAC Bank's customer assets. Today, it's, can we look into the next slide, please? I'm sorry, but is there a problem with the screen, Farah?
No, I have this. The slide looks like from my computer is like this.
I'm sorry, can everybody see this slide or is it broken up?
The font missing. Something.
Format is broken up.
It is terribly broken up.
Yeah, the format is broken.
Can you quickly fix this or?
Let's just take 2 minutes to see what this is. Mr. Hussain, give us 2 minutes.
Sure.
How does it look in your slides, Mr. Hussain?
It's all gibberish.
No, the one you have, because Farah is beaming the one that she has received, but you have one copy.
Yeah,
right?
Mine is normal. It's in English.
Okay, can we start your share screen again, Mr. Hussain?
I'll try to do that. Just give me a second.
Just tap on the enable editing on top and you should be fine.
Okay, just a second. Now you said enable. Oh,
yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, I found.
You'll be fine.
Okay, just hang on a second. Let me see if I can now manage this. And we were, okay, seems to be fine. My apologies again, ladies and gentlemen.
Fantastic. We're ready to go. It's
okay,
beautiful.
sorry. So just to give you a sense of what the definition of CMSME in Bangladesh is about. So essentially 4 client segments. Cottage, which is the smallest, and this slide just gives you a sense of these definitions are provided by the central bank and the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Finance have all agreed to these. So these are governmental prescribed classifications that we also within the banking industry follow. So the smallest segment you see 15 employees, loan limits of about $18,000 is what we call cottage. Slightly larger is micro, slightly larger from that, which is our real core competency, we call small business. This has a maximum loan limit of roughly $2 million. Clients with employees of below 120, clients with assets of about $1.7, $1.8 million. And then moving beyond this is slightly larger commercial businesses, which are classified as medium, and there the loan limit could go up to almost $9 million US. So these are the 4 sub-segments of cottage, micro, small. And the segmentation is very important because over the years, what we have done is we have focused on separate segments. So in terms of business acquisition or marketing or sales, in terms of credit, in terms of operations, there are dedicated teams managing each of these. That way we found, and also in terms of, for example, product management, product design as well. This is the best way we have found to maximize business in each of these client segments. Because they're slightly different, the products for each of these segments and the services need to be tailored somewhat differently. So obviously the client profile in small business, for example, would generally be loans of less than 24 months or less than 30 months. Whereas in medium businesses, they could go up to 5 years in terms of tenors. So you see, there could be different kinds of products and services for each of these client segments. If you look at the entire SME industry in Bangladesh, it is considered roughly to be 25% of GDP. Now, these numbers are slightly dated, and if you compare them internationally, you will be surprised because in most developed countries, the composition of SMEs to the entire economy is much, much higher. It is closer to 70–80% in most developed countries. Therefore, we would have to take some of these numbers with a pinch of salt. Nevertheless, you will see that very importantly that almost 50% of value addition is coming from these clients. And the industrial employment, something which is very important to BRAC Bank, because I mentioned earlier that generation of employment is very important to our way of thinking in how we progress the financial inclusion agenda, how we add value to our people, and you see that is almost 90%. So roughly the estimate is there are just over 8 million such enterprises in Bangladesh, and almost 89% of those are in the cottage and micro client segment. So if you look at BRAC Bank, what is our speciality? Our speciality is really the cottage micro small segment, where we are market leaders today of the entire SME. If you look at the SME industry in the Bangladesh banking industry, it is roughly 20% of the entire customer loan portfolio. Within BRAC Bank itself, as I said earlier, it is almost 47% of our business. And of that business, almost 60%, 59% is small. Emerging corporate, which is a slightly larger segment, it is 27%. And we provide a lot of support to many microfinance and agri-finance clients as well. That accounts for roughly 14% of our business. But very importantly, this gives you a sense, look at that bottom, BRAC Bank, BRAC Bank, SME clients represent 47% of our client portfolio. This compares to an industry average of 20%. So you get a sense of just how much more focused BRAC Bank is in this business. Micro merchants, which are really the soul of the cottage micro small client segment. This is a slide which will give you some sense of where they are. Unfortunately, this is a segment that is still very, very underserved in terms of digital usage, although more than 30% of them are already availing of mobile financial services. Therefore, through our subsidiary bKash, we are able to provide them with a lot of financial support. But overall, nationwide, you will notice that the average age of these clients is relatively young, average age of below 40%. There are many such clients in Bangladesh. And in terms of BRAC Bank, we are recognized that even after 2 decades almost in this business, we are still scratching the surface. If you look at our client numbers, they are today about 350,000 only. So let's look at BRAC Bank, internationally well recognized as leaders in the CMSME sector. Began the business in 2001. Today we have a sales force of just under 3,000 people. A total number of staff in this business would be close to 4,000 if you add in operations and technology, everybody else. The portfolio is just about a little under $1.5 billion, about 330,000 clients. Unproductive loan or non-productive loan percentage of 2.8%, a 30-day portfolio at risk of 4%. I would humbly suggest those numbers fare quite well compared to most international banks as well. To give you a sense also, over the last 3 years, and despite the fact that last year was a particularly difficult year, we still have a cumulative average growth rate of close to 20%. Customer deposits is slightly lower, but doing very well now. So look at BRAC banks, cottage micro small business, or what we call in short SME business. It is a combination of small, emerging, and agriculture. These are the 3 client segments. The small business operates out of 456 unit offices, has almost 2,500 salespeople. Average loan ticket size is under $11,000. And you can see that the average loan tenor is also only 18 months. You will notice that the NPL for this business is actually at 2.6, is better than the NPL for the total CMSME business of BRAC Bank. So the model itself, how does it work? It is intensive supervisory credit, credit which is based on many non-financial parameters as well, because you're talking about clients who do not necessarily have a general ledger and do not always maintain the kind of books of account that you would expect with a corporate or commercial clientele. But we have found ways to do this business. We know how to go about it. So for example, when I talk about non-financial parameters, I'm referring to questions that one of our credit people would come and ask a small business client. He would ask him, do you have a television, sir? What kind of television do you use? How many children do you have? Are you married? Do you have children? Do your children go to school? What is your wife doing? They will come and ask your neighbors, do you know Mr. XYZ? Is he a good man? What does he do? They will stand outside your shop for 2 or 3 days and watch customers come in and go out. And they will see how you operate, how you behave with customers. Do customers like you? And if they can, they will also talk to your supply chain channel. They will talk to your creditors and ask them, is this customer a good paymaster? So there are many non-financial parameters that are used to support this kind of credit decision making. This is slightly larger clients, businesses lying between the small client segments and the larger commercial segments. These are also clients that tend to be concentrated around certain parts of the country, around what we call the industrial zones. But this is also a business which we are very focused on. And you will notice that the amounts lent here could vary from say $10,000, $12,000 right up to $3 million. And the banking facilities would tend to be more composite in nature. For example, having transaction banking services, overdraft facilities, perhaps some digital banking solutions, and trade finance as well. So this is a business which today is about just under $400 million, 4,000 odd clients. You'll notice it has a slightly higher NPL and PAR. It's a different client base, so the products and services are also slightly differently designed. Agricultural MFI is essentially the microfinance customers that we lend to directly. This is not directly lent to the final obligor. We lend to microfinance institutions, and they then on lend to their microcredit and agricultural credit clientele. Very importantly, you'll notice how well performing this portfolio is. It is a portfolio that we are also trying to grow going forward. So I showed you earlier that we are roughly 5% of the Bangladesh banking industry's SME portfolio. But we are 33% of the unsecured lending. So 1/3 of all SME unsecured lending in Bangladesh is run through BRAC Bank. And our products, very importantly, a key contributing factor to our success over the last 4 or 5 years has been our focus on tailoring products to suit customer segments and customer requirements. Perhaps 5 years ago, we would have 5 or 6 products and try to sell the same kind of products and services to all clients. Now we have many, many different kinds of products and services tailored according to loan tenors, interest rates, loan moratoriums, composite facilities, etc., etc. So very different kinds of client segments, different kinds of products, and bank staff or teams which are also dedicated to doing that particular kind of business, both in terms of client acquisition and also in terms of risk management and operations. We have a very strong delinquency management model, which is well aligned with our legal teams. The collection and recovery model is very, very strong. To give you a sense, we recover 25% of all bad loans annually. So that is significantly higher than the kind of success we have in either consumer finance or corporate commercial businesses, where the recovery rates are 1/4 or 1/5 of this. We generally find that the payment behavior of these clients can be better managed if you understand them well and if you work well with the law enforcement agencies and particularly with the courts. These kind of clients tend to be a little shy and apprehensive of the courts, and therefore we use a lot of legal action to help us in our collection recoveries. Our sense over the years, and I've been in this business for 10 years now, 5 years with BRAC and another 6 years with another institution, is that these clients do not fail to repay unless something very untoward has happened to them. That could be some kind of environmental concern. Flooding, for example, is quite common in Bangladesh. You know about the corona situation for the last 5-6 months, but I must mention that over the last 3 months, this business in Bangladesh has recovered in line with what we call a V recovery. So we are growing this business from June, July, August at pre-COVID levels again. We have a strong focus on gender as well. There is a product within this business called Tara. Tara in our language means star, and this is a dedicated women's banking platform offering different kinds of customer products and services, and we have a strong Tara SME business as well. Just to give you a sense of how close we are to our customers, over the last 3 months, we've had 3 separate customer surveys to help us better understand how our customers are doing, what their needs are, how we should help them going forward. That is the kind of investment we make in trying to understand the business. And different kinds of support that we have provided to our customers, reducing interest rates, waiving fees, waiving penalty charges, extending loans, offering them moratoriums, etc. And all this was provided over April, May, and June, and still continues. And we have found that more than 80% of our SME clients have availed of these loan moratoriums starting a few months ago, but already 40% of them have returned and are paying normally. This is something that is sort of in the pipeline. We call it SME Bondhu or SME Friendship. It is a non-financial service that we are planning to put out, which is a kind of a SME Facebook, which will help our clients network amongst themselves and will allow us to understand these clients better and offer them more tailored solutions too. Another area of significant focus, I'll flick through these slides quickly because I see that we're almost out of time, but we're spending a lot of money, time, and effort in converting our paper-based platform to digital to support this business and bring down our cost to the business itself. I won't get into, I think all of you already know that digitalization is the future of all banking, and particularly for SME banking, where because of the intensive supervisory nature of the business, the operational costs are quite high. I won't spend too much time on that. So our vision, how are we going to grow to a CAGR of 25%? We look at over the last 5 years, the CAGR has been more about 18%, but going forward, as we feel the environment normalizes, our plan is to significantly step this business up, both using technology and a lot of business process reengineering to bring down the costs, improve customer turnaround times, improve the overall customer experience. To give you a sense, a small business loan today takes anything between 5 to 10 working days to disburse. We are trying to use technology to, certainly in the next 18 months, bring that down to within 15 minutes. And there is a continuous effort going on in corporatizing this entire business within BRAC Bank itself. I don't have very much more here. What I thought I'd do is just stop Dr. Sundar and ask if there are any questions that I can take.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussain. So we will have questions through the Q&A box, but it is my pleasure to invite members on the panel, Dr. Bajwa, Mr. Shah, Mr. Sunil, Dr. Wijewadena. Please feel free to comment, question as we go along.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I start, Dr. Venkat?
Please, Dr. Bajwa.
So first of all, Dr. Selim, I've heard a lot about you, and you have come up to your reputation. So congratulations, sir, for an excellent presentation. Really was very informative, and I think it's quite relevant in the South Asian context. So one thing that comes to the mind, sir, is that you have the BRAC, the non-profit, which is also giving micro loans.
Yes.
You
about
are doing
$4 to $5 billion of microfinance loans. That is a separate vertical altogether and managed completely separate from BRAC Bank.
So the first question which comes to one's mind is that, as you know, that you call it CMSME, the IFC calls it the very small enterprises or VSE. So there are various names to this sector, right, but this is the missing middle. But having said that, how many of your clients of CMSMEs are actually graduate clients of BRAC?
Yeah, that's a very good question, sir. Our estimate is at least 12%, at least. And in fact, the plan I would like to share with you is going forward to integrate more with BRAC and take on board many more of those clients as well. Going forward within the next few months, the current head executive director of BRAC Microfinance, Mr. Shamiran Abed, is coming on board BRAC Bank as a board director. And we expect his coming on board to the BRAC Bank board will help us progress that plan that I just shared with you.
Yeah, because I have seen in microfinance, sir, that there is on an average about 15 to 20% attrition. These are the people who have had a great credit history. They have started from zero. They have gone up like taking loans for 3, 4, 5 years. And now the institution is unable to provide them with the demand which they require to grow. And so they get stuck. So to me, I think it's a great way if you can connect with BRAC itself, then you don't need perhaps new clients from outside. But having said that, the key to this kind of a lending is cash flow analysis, and I know for sure that that's so it needs specialized people, it needs specialized fields. So the next question is that what is the training mechanism? Are they university graduates or are they lower than that? And how do you create this workforce? Because this workforce is not available easily. It's not outside. You can't poach it because there is none available. So what can you comment on your training mechanism and how do you do that? And also that how do you sieve them out? Because there is a big collusion system in place when you do a cash flow lending. Your loan officer will, if he or she gets colluded with the client, they can play havoc. So the training, and then how do you circumvent this, sir?
Question. For a start, one of the changes that I brought about from 2016 onwards is a complete segregation of the credit decision making and the customer acquisition functions. Prior to my coming on board, those were actually combined together in one team. So I segregated that very early on. And that has helped in improving the overall quality of the portfolio itself. But you're very right in that any bank wanting to get into this business would probably need to spend time understanding what is required, what the clients are like, what kind of employees do we need? Do you need your university graduates? Or is a person with higher secondary school graduation enough for that? What kind of degree do you need in terms of the criteria for onboarding employees? And you need a separate training program as well in terms of, so we offer a lot of that. We have found that it takes almost 9 to 12 months for new salesperson, as we call them relationship officers, ROs, for a new RO to be trained and to start generating business. Almost 9 months of probation, almost internship, learning from mentors, different classroom-based and non-classroom but market-based training programs. So it takes, as I said, anything between 6, 9, sometimes even 12 months for these new relationship officers to start delivering, start performing. It doesn't happen overnight. And there's a separate team, an academy of trainers, training modules, etc., that are made for this particular division. It is very different. Within the bank itself, you look at corporate commercial as one client segment, you look at consumer finance or retail as another, SME as another. They're very different. And as management, if we do not recognize the differences, then we will not be able to get the best out of them. So you're absolutely right that they are different. The people, the clients are different. Our people who will be managing these clients, servicing these clients, also need to be different. So for example, when we recruit management trainees, we have to ask them, would you be willing to work in the SME client segments? And to be honest, 9 out of 10 of them say no. So our management trainees are generally the best students coming out of graduate schools, for example. We find they're not suited to this business. So we look elsewhere for people, bank employees who can understand these businesses, are willing to spend time riding motorcycles and bicycles and visiting small shops across the country, meeting these clients. We need employees who are able to talk in their language. All right? None of these clients can speak English. So if you're a university graduate coming out of a good business school and you expect to talk in English to some of these clients, that's not going to work. So you need to have empathy. We look for that empathy amongst the employees that we are dedicating to this business. So you have to manage it very, very differently. In terms of the credit decision making, it is not, there is no cash flow analysis, certainly for cottage, micro, small. You need to understand non-financial parameters. You need to understand the business very well. You need to understand how, for example, you look at a grocery store, and grocery is almost 25% of our small business. So how much does the grocer onboard on a daily basis from his supply chain, from different vendors, from the wholesalers? How much is he selling? So you can start doing calculations, and actually you have to estimate his cash flow yourself. He's not going to be able to do it for you. So there are many ways, and beyond this, there are also non-financial parameters that I referred to earlier. We understand what to ask, and what we ask is not necessarily always financial in nature. So it's very important to approach these clients in a manner that is slightly different, or no, perhaps significantly different from your corporate and commercial clientele. I hope in a few minutes I've been able to give you a sense of how and why this business is different from other cash flow lending business in the bank.
Well, thank you very much, most certainly. And my last segment of questions would be that you said that your collections, you're using the LEAs and codes. So do you also have some muscle men like other organizations they do?
We have found that does not work well. So what we do is we coordinate well with the law enforcement agencies and with the courts. So the clerks in the courts. So for example, we find many of these clients, they get very nervous as soon as they get a letter or something from the court. And so we do not need to use musclemen, but when we use through our good offices, the law enforcement agencies and the courts together, then we find that unless the client is really unable to repay, and occasionally you get the occasional fraud or really a customer with an unwillingness to repay, generally that's not a big problem, which is why you see the less than 3% NPL in the small business. You will be surprised, sir, that our non-collateralized lending has the least delinquency in BRAC Bank.
Well, thank you very much. This was most enlightening. Over to Dr. Venkat. Sorry, I took a lot of time to that.
No, our pleasure, Dr. Bajwa. Thank you very much, Mr. Hussain. I think that also answers the question that one of our students had, how come the NPL rates are so low compared to the general average for the banking industry in this segment.
Sir, can I just interrupt you? For this segment, the Bangladesh banking industry is closer to 15%, the NPLs. So that will give you a sense. Our NPLs are 1/5 almost of what the standard experience is.
So this is simply the benefit of good management, if you like.
Experience, good management, and investment, sir, investment. investment in people, in processes, at the sales marketing level, at the credit level, at operations, at product design. So it's a combination of all of it and a lot of expense.
Now, that brings me to the next question. Before I go there, it's also my pleasure to invite Mr. Kumar Lamsal. He's the head of the Nepal Bankers Institute. Namaste, Kumarji. Welcome. Now, one of the things that is much talked about in servicing the MSME sector is customer profitability. Sourcing customers, processing loans, monitoring them, collection. Is it all justified at the end in terms of the profit that each customer brings in? And to this end, there have been quite a few products that have come out which make it easier to source customers using certain digital platforms and so on. What is the BRAC Bank initiative on this front, to sort of sharpen customer acquisition?
Excellent question. Thank you, sir. Actually, the bank itself from 2019 onwards has embarked on a complete digitalization, a transformation, a digital transformation of the bank. That is for all client segments and all our platforms, moving away from paper-based operational analog to completely straight through digital transactions for customers, which will enhance customer experience, significantly reduce costs. And the same thing applies particularly to SME, where the cost-income ratio is quite naturally much higher, particularly so since April of this year when interest rates were capped at 9%. Therefore, we have simply accelerated all our digital initiatives. Currently, to give you a sense, this business is operating almost at a loss simply because of the sudden rate cap. But the plan is, and we have actually signed a contract with our board, shown them how we will convert this business into complete profitability by March of next year, and significant profitability by the end of next year. And much that is based on twin pillars. Firstly, a lot of digitalization. Secondly, a lot of business process reengineering as well. So there are significant investments in terms of premises, processes, people, training, product design, and a lot of technology. A new loan originating platform, a new document management archival capability, and hopefully going forward into 22, we will be able to onboard what we call algorithm-based credit scorecards as well. I told you earlier that it takes anything between 5 to 10 days for us to disburse a loan now. We intend to bring that down to 10, 15 minutes in the next 2 years' time. Less than that. It will take less than that to do it. To give you a sense again, 45 to 55% of our marketing team's daily time is spent on administrative logistic MIS work. And only 40 to 45% is actual customer interaction, customer visitation. So if we're trying to change that so that if those numbers, amount of time spent on what we call not irrelevant, but unproductive business is brought down through usage of better technology, better processes, then the customer relationship officer and the SME staff can spend much more time doing business.
Sure. There is, I just wanted to share with you something that the Siam Commercial Bank has done in Thailand. This refers to SMEs who are in the manufacturing sector, but also some of them are in trading, and they are using the e-commerce companies to sell their wares. So they are registered with large e-commerce companies. And the Siam Commercial Bank has entered strategic partnerships with these e-commerce companies, which actually acts as a loan originator, but also provides data on the cash flows of these SMEs, something that you referred to. So it's possibly, the digital strategy can also pair with a partnership strategy.
We have just done the same thing. As I said, sir, we have 4 or 5 of such partnerships in place. It will perhaps take another 6 or 9 months before these really start generating significant numbers. But we have started the same thing.
So the SCB is now claiming that they can use their internally developed algorithm to grant a loan or a decision in 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
That's exactly our destination model.
Wonderful. So may I now invite Mr. Sunil, Mr. Shah, Dr. Wijewadena, our friends on the panel, if you have any comments, questions, observations, please.
Okay, this is Anil Shah from NMBBank. Thank you so much, sir, for what an amazing presentation that was. I've always been intrigued about BRAC Bank, as most bankers in South Asia have been, I think, and your model and how you've actually grown the business to this point of view. So I think BRAC and the team there are a role model for many of us, including myself. So it was a pleasure listening to you, listening to your vision, and listening to the journey that you've had so far. Just quick 3 questions. First one being, in this today's context, who do you see as your biggest competitor? Would it be banks? Would it be development banks, MFIs? What would it be?
There's only one bank which does this business seriously in Bangladesh. That is called Islami Bank. It's a very large bank, about 4 or 5 times the size of BRAC Bank. It has a 10% market share in the SME business industry in Bangladesh. But their focus is entirely on the higher end, top end of the SME client segment, what we call medium enterprises. So they are not really interested in the smaller, lower end, which is our expertise. But the microfinance is another client segment which is really smaller than, say, 100,000 taka. So we do not see them as a competition. We actually see them as complementing us.
Yeah, I can see that. The second one being, looking at the volumes of business you're doing, and you talked about digitization. Do you use any psychometric models for onboarding customers, or is it all manual at this point of time?
It is all manual, but the psychometric modeling of a sort is already done. We have 4 credit scorecards which were developed in conjunction with the IFC. And I don't know if you would call them psychometric from a strictly technical expertise perspective, but there's many psychometric-like questions that are asked. As I said, do you have a television set, sir, at home? What kind of television set? Questions like that. Do your children go to school? For us, these are psychometric in nature because the answers to those questions give us a sense of what your profile is. And there is a profile that we like and we have over the years learned is ideal for doing this kind of business.
Okay, and so I think the next step would be just digitizing that and getting a scorecard out so that immediately the person is told you can get a loan up to this amount and this is the rate that we can give it to you at.
Exactly. Our plan is by March of next year, BRAC Bank will be launching a pretty comprehensive banking app which will be offered to all our customers, and that app will have, going forward, have many services similar to what Dr. Sundar said. For managing your own finance, whether you are an individual or a business, and that will help in providing us with data which we can use for credit decision making as well. So there is actually a roadmap.
Great. And finally,
sorry.
Yeah. No, thank you. And finally, SMEs the backbone for most South Asian countries. I think there's no doubt about that. While the large national corporates may be the face of the economy, but the SME is the backbone that actually makes the whole economy tick. And I think that's, at least in Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, I think that's definitely there. But what about the temptation? I mean, you're a big bank now, as the figures showed, as your chart showed. Isn't there always a temptation? Because now you're able to play with the big boys, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to keep doing the SME. The temptation is there. I can do one deal and it's more than, 500 of these little deals that I do. And the board, if you want to turn the bottom line around, that's the way to go. How do you deal with that temptation?
Firstly, I started off telling you it's in our DNA. This is what we do, what we want to do, what our founder chairman built this bank to do. We're never going to move away from that. To give you a sense, from April this year, the government imposed a 9% lending cap. This business we priced at 15, 16, 17% prior to April 2020. Overnight, that has been reduced to 9%. Overnight, the book is a loss. So have we stopped business? No. We're going to grow the business, but we are committed to finding ways to improve the margin within what we do, to make ourselves more efficient, more effective, so that our cost income ratio today, Anil, is 140%. So it's a loss. But over the last 3 months, we have put in plans, and every month the cost income ratio is dropping from 8 to 10, 11%. By March of next year, this portfolio will be fully profitable again. And definitely we intend to reach a cost income ratio of 50% by December 21. And this is even assuming that this kind of lending rate cap will remain in place. So we will work within this to find a better way to do the business, make it more efficient. But we are not going to stop doing the business. Of course, you also have to recognize that that kind of commitment and focus would probably only come from a bank like BRAC. That is our focus I mentioned on the financial inclusion agenda. And that is a focus that we have from our parents, which hold 44% of shareholding of BRAC Bank itself. So this is a bank that I must mention that in terms of financial metrics over the last 5 years, Anil, this bank is now #1 in the country in terms of profits, in terms of profitability, in terms of return on asset, in terms of return on equity, in terms of our NPAs, portfolio quality, in terms of our credit rating. And yet 47% of our business is SME. So we're very proud of the way we're working all three segments together to make them the overall proposition for the bank and the shareholders very, very attractive. But we recognize a lot of work needs to be done now with the new restrictions, and we are progressing that well. June, July, August, 3 months, our cost income ratio has already dropped from 150 to I think 113 or 14.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anilji. Thank you, Mr. Hussain. We have with us some of our students from the Professional Masters in Banking and Finance program. Mr. Buddhadev Sinha is from the Bangladesh Bank, the Central Bank of Bangladesh. He has a question. So Buddhadev, can you ask the question yourself, please? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, Buddhadev, are you there?
Mr. Buddhadev?
Buddhadev, well, he seems to be, okay. Now let me invite Mr. Rupak Thapa. Rupak, please go ahead and ask your question. Rupak is also a student in our Professional Masters in Banking and Finance. He comes from Nepal. Rupak?
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation, and it gave us a lot of learning. In fact, fruitful learning from your experience and your presentation. My question is partly has already been discussed over here. So I just wanted to ask, how is the impact on bottom line or return from these MSMEs, as admin and operating cost will be very high for acquisition of these MSMEs, and even if we want to go to digitalization, then also these MSMEs are not easily adapted to this digitalization, because they don't have adequate manpower. The business is generally run by family members only, and the adaptation rate is very low. So like how do you manage these things?
You'll be surprised how many people in Bangladesh use a mobile financial service. Over 5 crores, and they all use mobiles. You'll be surprised that the number or the penetration of Facebook in Bangladesh. It is amongst the highest in the world, and it's in Bangla. So it is wrong, and we learned that in bKash, our mobile financial service, to believe that just because people are poor or are partially educated, that they're also stupid. They're not. If they find that there is value in something, they will pick it up very, very quickly. We have learned that through mobile financial service. Now, the question is, can we come up with digital banking services which are very, very friendly, very user-friendly, which are ideally tailored to suit their requirements? That's the important aspect. And once we are able to do that, they will catch on to that very quickly and use it. They understand what's good for them, what's profitable for them. You know, they understand that very well. So it's a question of ensuring that our digital services are such that they can use it. So we're not too worried about that, as I said. Let me give you one example. This is back in 2018 when our mobile financial service bKash launched a banking an app. Prior to that, it was operating through what we call the USSD channel on mobile phones. Our expectation, we were hoping to get 1 million customers in 1 year's time onboarded to the new app platform. They got 1 million subscribers in 1 month. That's when we learned that just because people are poor or uneducated or semi-literate doesn't mean that they will not use technology. They know how to use it. If they feel that there's value in it, they will use it. And one has to teach them. That's it. 5 minutes, no big deal. We're quite confident about that.
Thank you, sir, for a new perspective.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussain. Mr. Sunil, Dr. Wijewadena, you have any?
Yeah. Hi, Selim.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Great presentation as always. And well, interestingly, you mentioned about V-shaped recovery, especially in SME segment in Bangladesh, right? Is it because of stimulus provided by the government or central bank, or is effort of the
partially? So first, you're right. Sorry, go ahead, Sunil.
Yeah.
So in terms of we have to admit there's this a very attractive and well rolled out stimulus package, which is almost 3.5, just under 4% of GDP. 1, 2, what the government April, May, I think 7-8 days of March, April, May was complete lockdown, but everything was opened up in phases from June onwards, and that allowed the economy to rebound very quickly. And of course, certain sectors of the economy are still struggling. That's only natural. For example, hospitality, restaurants, hotels, many retail outlets. And but many other segments, many other sectors, many other clients have rebounded very, very well. So the rollout of the cottage micro small stimulus package has, because there's a portion of that in the overall package as well, that has helped too. But what has also helped is the enormous liquidity pumped into the system by the central bank, which, you know, just to give you a sense, a one-year term deposit in BRAC Bank was selling for 8% in December 2019. Today it would be less than 4%. So that's how much the interest rates have dropped, and there is enormous liquidity in the market. Yes, over the last 2 decades almost, the overall macro fundamentals of Bangladesh have been quite strong. And as a result, the government has a lot of monetary and fiscal space to be able to do not only what they have just done, but continue it perhaps for another couple of years. So it is much, a lot of rules and regulations have also been reformed, relaxed, and all that together has resulted, we feel, in this, certainly the businesses that I'm talking about, the small business, recovering quite sharply.
Okay, so does BRAC has any plan, specific revival plan for your clients who are, I mean, even during this recovery, who are impacted, I mean, highly impacted client segments or sectors?
Yes, yes, we, you know, and we started this from April. We offered loan moratoriums when nothing was there in the pipeline. The government only started this, formalized this in June. But we in BRAC Bank, we offered our customers in retail, corporate, and SME, all three kinds segments, loan moratoriums, reduction or waivers on fees, on penalty interest rates, a number of different kinds of support to all our clients. And I feel honestly, Anil, that at the end of this pandemic, it's not the end really, but after 5 months, BRAC Bank is in a far superior position to where it was in terms of the competitive landscape. So back in January, where we were today in September, our profile amongst our clients, amongst the regulators, the general public is immeasurably stronger and higher than what it was earlier. So we've been able to use this pandemic, if I may use the term use, to good effect in progressing our profile, our reputation, our relationship with all our customers.
Yeah. One last question, Selim. What I understand is BRAC earlier, 5 years or so, 7 years back, the BRAC had the NPA level at around 10 plus or even higher than 10%. Now, in 5-6 years span of time, we have managed to bring it down to less than 3%. What's the secret? What have we done differently in the last 4 or 5 years?
I think strong management, Dr. Sundar mentioned it, a focus on performance, on accountability. Since I joined in these last 5 years, the bank has quadrupled its market cap in the stock market. Our profit, you know, we were a mid-ranging bank, if I may humbly say so. We've jumped to the top of the pile in these 4 or 5 years already. Every metric that we have, return on asset, return on equity, our collect portfolio at risk, our NPLs are at the top of, we are leading the industry. And it's a collective effort, a lot of new people, changed mindset, performance-oriented, a lot of accountability, changed processes, many issues, many things that we have done together. So it's difficult for me to consolidate all that into something I can say in 1 minute.
Yeah.
But a lot of effort and a lot of new management too. The bank has been changed completely from where it was 5 years ago.
Thank you, Selim. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussain. Buddhadev, are you here now?
Yes, sir, I am here.
Okay.
Can you
Buddhadev
hear
from
me?
Bangladesh. Yes, he is from Bangladesh Bank
Oh,
in our professional masters program. Buddhadev, your question, please.
Mr. Sinha, please.
yeah. First of all, a great presentation, Mr. Hussain. And I must say that regarding the visionary attitude of Sir Fazl Hassan Abed, what people are thinking today regarding financial inclusion, he thought a lot of years ago. However, I have two questions. That is, first one is, what is the role of BRAC bank agent banking in case of CMSME? And my second question is, actually, is there any cannibalization effect between the BRAC MFI and BRAC agent banking? Hello?
So, agent banking is something we launched relatively late, November 2019. Many banks in Bangladesh had launched it 5 or 6 years ago, so we're a late entrant. But our proposition is entirely digital. It's app-based 24/7. So it's a much stronger proposition, and we're building on that capability going forward. So over the next 2 years, this will be even more stronger in terms of more digital services. And it is an integral part of our overall SME strategy as well. It gives us an opportunity to access clients in small towns and villages where we do not have a bricks and mortar branch. That's very important. So the cost is much lower. It enables, for example, of our 450 odd SME sales offices, 260 were in locations where BRAC Bank did not have a branch or a license. Therefore, we operated out of correspondent banking support. Now, we don't need any correspondent banking support. We are operating out of our own agent banking solutions out of those 260 locations. And we can do 3-4 times more business out of those locations than we did in the past because it was complicated, bureaucratic, using a correspondent bank. So the question is, the answer to your question is, agent banking is a very important part of the overall SME proposition in disbursing loans and in generating deposits and providing basic banking services to that client segment. So did I answer your question, or was there a second part as well?
Second part is remaining. That is there any cannibalization effect between BRAC MFI and BRAC agent banking?
Not really. We are trying to cross-sell so that as customers migrate to higher echelons of microfinance and they want to become even bigger, say, generally microcredit is 1 lakh or 2 lakh, not more than that. We tend to start much higher, 7-8 lakhs. So as the customers graduate and they want more, better, bigger banking and financing, then they can come to BRAC Bank. As yet, I'll be honest, the integration between BRAC and BRAC Bank in terms of this business is not as strong as we want it to be. But going forward, the executive director of BRAC MFI will be joining BRAC Bank as a board director, and we hope to have more integration in this regard. Currently, there is very little cannibalization.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussain. We are also pleased to welcome Dr. Syed Mamun. He is the Deputy CEO of the credit rating agency, CRISL in Bangladesh. Dr. Mamun, welcome. We have 2 questions on the chat box. Sanjib, are you there? Sanjib? And Dr. Mamun? Hello? And we also have one of our faculty in the professional masters in banking and finance. He's an experienced banker, having spent more than 30 years in Bank of Baroda. Dr. Srinivas Rao, welcome. Would you like to ask the question to Mr. Selim Hussain directly? Hello, Dr. Srinivas Rao. Dr. Rao? Very good. Now, we have a few more questions in the Q&A.
There are some, Dr. Venkatesh, there are some questions in the chat sent by the panelists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just go to the chat box here. So chat box, okay, Dr. Srinivas Rao says, can you identify a few differentiating strategies that account for the healthy profitability of BRAC Bank's MSME business compared to other banks? I think some of this has been covered in the answer to the earlier questions, but Mr. Hussain, if you'd like to use this opportunity to wrap up, what differentiates BRAC Bank in this segment?
I think the first is, Dr. Sundar, the commitment to doing this business, making it work. Making it work. It's not going to happen overnight. It has taken us many, many years. The young gentleman, Mr. Sinha mentioned, I think Anil also mentioned, in 5 years ago, our NPLs were in double digits. In 5 years, we brought that down to 3%, and now we're targeting 2% in the next 2 years. So that didn't happen overnight. It's taken time, learning, processes, people, a lot of change that has happened over the many years before we've come to a model that we understand well. And now, in fact, the imperative is to move to a next stage, which is really using many more digital tools and the digital platform to make it much, much better. So I want to emphasize that commitment to doing this business, making it profitable, recognizing that it's a different client segment, a different business, and the needs, priorities, characteristics of this business are different. The clients, the business they do, and the people who are needed to manage that business have to be different too. So you cannot use the same employees who you use in your corporate banking team to do your retail banking, or the retail banking team to do your SME banking. You have to recognize the differences, appreciate them, respect them, and then agree that you are going to build a separate vertical to run this business. I think that is something that we've done very successfully. Understand that the 3 client segments in BRAC Bank, our SME business is about 17% of client assets, 35% corporate, the remainder is all SME, as I said earlier. But the 3 client segments can be, can supplement each other and can complement each other very well. That's very important to recognize. And as I said today, Dr. Sundar, this business is a loss for us because suddenly the government imposed a 9% lending cap from April. But we are committed to making it work and finding ways to change the business, make it more efficient. And in the last 3 months, we've already achieved very good success. You may ask, why didn't you do this 1 year ago or 2 years ago? And the question really is because 2 years ago, the imperative was not on finding such solutions, stronger margins. Now the scenario is different. So we have adapted, and going forward, we will change and make this business profitable. That mindset is very, very important. We did, many investors, 40% of BRAC Bank is international investors, have said to me, Selim, why don't you stop this business? If it's a loss, 140, 150% cost income ratio, you should stop this business. I said, no, We're not going to stop it. We're going to keep on doing what we do well. We're going to find ways to make the business more efficient, more effective. That's what we're going to do. Because our DNA is this business. If we move away from SMEs, why are we here as a bank? We're not here just to make money, make profit. The fact of the matter is we make good money, we are very profitable, but that's a side issue. The focus is needed first. I do not believe that banks can get into SME business and expect to make it very profitable in the short run. It will take time, it will take investment, it will take commitment of resources, of people, of time.
That's an outstanding point, Mr. Hussain. I think it's probably understated, the commitment to stay with the business. May I invite Dr. Vijay?
This is Dr. Mamun from here.
Yes.
So can you, okay.
Sure, please.
So first of all, thank you, Hussain sir, for presenting nicely, and we always proud from Bangladesh side, the great banking leader and the corporate leader like you, and we are getting a lot of good insights. So here my one insights about the digital loan. Recently, the subsidiary of bKash has launched the digital loan along with your another counterpart or competitors like the Citibank.
Right.
So one of the major instrument, as we know that, like reducing cost for the SME financing, is to adopt the digital loan services. So what is the future plan of BRAC Bank to take the leverage of it? And what is the strategic point in this respect to align of your subsidiary with another banks rather than BRAC banks? So
let me explain. We allow bKash to operate as it's a separate legal entity, and there's a Chinese wall between us. So 5 board directors of BRAC Bank, including myself, are actually on the board of bKash as well. But we run that company independently. It is not tied to BRAC Bank. And any arrangement, agreement with BRAC Bank is on a strictly commercial basis of benefit to both entities. Okay, so let me start off with that perspective. We looked at nano lending, which is essentially what they are doing with that particular bank, bKash, 2 years ago. And we decided, and in fact, I spent 2 weeks in East Africa with a number of our colleagues. If you look at the East Africa experience of nano lending, small ticket digital lending below, I think below $100, well below, no more than $10, $20, something like that. It is heavily, very high interest rates, high fees, which are difficult to administer in a country like Bangladesh, where the regulatory restrictions are significantly greater than the laissez-faire kind of environment that East Africa and Kenya operate in. Then you look at the NPLs, they're very high. You look at the usage of those nano loans, a lot of it tends to get channeled into pure consumption, food, drinks, alcohol, sports betting, gambling, etc. These are areas that are not necessarily aligned to what BRAC Bank is all about and BRAC is all about, if you understand what I mean. So therefore, our focus, we looked at it and we said we're not interested in nano lending. We are building our digital finance capabilities to support our own businesses, which is consumer finance, home loans, car loans, personal loans, credit cards, etc., etc. SME businesses, definitely, but not for nano lending. So we told them, you're welcome to go and talk to other banks and integrate with them and do that business. This is not something that we are interested in.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank
you very much, Mr. Hussain. Before I give the floor to Dr. Wijewadena, who I'm sure will have something to add about the Sri Lankan stimulus package to supplement what we heard from Mr. Hussain about the Bangladeshi package. I'm also pleased to announce that we are in discussion with Mr. Hussain to have the bank share with us the significant efforts they have made to support the health of employees, especially mental health during this time of this pandemic. Admirable efforts have been made, and we hope that this platform will be used to share BRAC Bank's experience and also the similar experience of other banks for the benefit of all in the community. So thank you very much, Mr. Hussain, for that offer. We hope we will have this sometime soon before the end of the year. Dr. Wijewadena, a very good afternoon.
Very good afternoon, Dr. Venkatesh. So, in fact, I would like to thank Mr. Hussain for taking us through a very comprehensive and elaborative account of the impressive growth which BRAC Bank has experienced in the last 20 years. And of course, the BRAC Bank has been an SME bank in Bangladesh, basically catering to the requirements of the small, medium enterprise and cottage type borrowers. But the future of Bangladesh will not be confined only to SMEs, because the government of Bangladesh has already announced that it wants to elevate Bangladesh to a higher middle income country by year 2030 and a rich country by year 2050. So if we accept that these goals would be realized by Bangladesh, how would BRAC Bank fit itself to the evolving economic structure in the country, where the SMEs would have to be looked at from a different perspective? So they are right now producing for the local market, but once Bangladesh becomes a high middle income country, and from there a rich country, SMEs will have to move away from the local market to the global market. So is there any plan for BRAC Bank to grow with the evolving economic changes that have been anticipated in Bangladesh?
Thank you, sir. Very interesting question. Actually, if you look at our SME book, we spoke about the small, a cottage, micro, small segment. But on top of that sits a larger commercial segment, which we call emerging corporate. That's the name of the segment that we use. That covers medium-sized corporates as well. Those businesses tend to support many of them, not all of them, or a sizable chunk of them actually support export-oriented businesses, mainly in textiles. As you know, ready-made garments and textiles are a $30 billion US dollar export business in Bangladesh. And many of these clients already are in the backward linkage of those export-oriented industries. So that is already there. And our plan is to grow that business very, very significantly. We are also trying to build more, actually the country is trying to build many more, 100 more export zones, export processing zones. So these EPZs, and we are trying to build our businesses, this emerging corporate business, around those export processing zones as well, because these clients will support those zones. So yes, it is very much a strategy for us going forward. When we talk about the SME segment, it's important for us. One of the success stories for us in this area is the realization that there are many different client sub-segments in that entire component. We call it SME, or today they call it cottage, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Even within those enterprises, there's different sectors, and they are all different. So for example, fishing is different from other agriculture, from horticulture to making cricket bats or to making perfume or light engineering. They're all different. And it's very important that a bank understands the differences in each of these sectors or sub-segments and tailors their products and services for them. So for example, sir, just to give you a sense, over the last 5 years, we have done a lot of this. So earlier on, 5 years ago, the bank had 5 or 6 products, and we would go to a customer and say, this is what we have, you have to take this or nothing else. It's either do it my way or the highway. Now it's different. Today, we have a 5-year term loan for these clients. We have a 1-year term loan. We even have a 3-month term loan. We have loan moratoriums set up. We have different forms of disbursement over a period of time to support the clients, different kinds of fee models, etc., different kinds of collection models. It's important that we recognize that each sector segment is different, and we try to adapt to that sector instead of force-fitting something on them. And this, what you mentioned about the country growing and export-oriented industries being more important, you will be happy to know that we are heavily focusing in some of these industries. Pharmaceuticals, light engineering, already many agricultural export industries as well, fisheries, prawn, horticulture, spices, etc., as well. So we do recognize that is an important part of our strategy going forward. Thank you, sir. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. That's all from me, Dr. Venkatesh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wijewadena. My pleasure also to invite Mr. Talat Mahmood from NRSP, a good friend and a senior manager who has been here in AIT. Talat Saab, welcome. So we had 2 questions from our master's students from Bangladesh, Tanveer, Kazi. I hope these questions got answered during the course of this discussion. So we can now say the last few things on this program. May I now invite my colleagues, Ms. Farah, Dr. Fuang, to share with all present about the next talk and formally close the ceremony. So the next webinar will be in 2 weeks from now. Dr. Anil Shah will talk about how has Nabil future-proofed itself. I extend a warm welcome to all of you to attend. Mr. Shah is an excellent speaker, and I'm sure you will learn about banking and also have an enjoyable time in the process. With that, I would now like to say thank you one more time to Mr. Selim Hussain for sharing with us his wonderful experience and sparing his valuable time. AIT is indeed very proud, as I said at the beginning, to have these distinguished bankers on this platform. And we hope that, as Dr. Naveed said, we will meet some or even all of you at the enterprise engagement ceremony that AIT plans to launch in November. So we will be in touch and send you invitations to this. And so to all our attendees, to all our panelists, thank you very much once again, and wish you a very good day. Please stay safe and hope to see you in the next talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to all of you.
Thank you.